Our poll question today is this. What do you think of Kanye West's announcement that he will run for president in 2020? Do you think it's a joke? Do you think he's serious? Do you think he could win? Or do you think he'd be better than Obama? MTV's Video Music Awards always give us a lot to talk about each year, but some political gurus like my next guest were surprised to hear that a future presidential candidate emerged last night during the show. Here is Kanye's big announcement last night.
As you probably could have guessed by this moment, I have decided in 2020 to run for president.
Here to discuss is our political expert from the right side of things, John Hawkins of rightwingnews.com. John, welcome back to the show. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me on, Gina.
All right, John, what do you think? Will he run as a Republican or as a Democrat?
Definitely a Democrat, and it's not as implausible as you may think. I mean, let's face it, he's as qualified as Hillary.
Well, okay, well, there you go. All right, now, the statue of Jefferson Davis is being removed from the University of Texas at Austin. Are moves like this really causing racial tension to be lessened, or is this just a feel-good, worthless kind of a gesture?
Well, it's worse than a feel-good type of a gesture because it's actually increasing racial tensions. This is a bottomless pit. There's nowhere that you can satisfy people with, because first it was the flag, okay? Then they're like, all right, we're going to take the flag down. Now it's, all right, well, we've got to move all these statues. All right, now we've got to change the name of these streets. Now we've got to change the name of this university. Okay, let's dig this dead guy up. That's what we're coming to. It's crazy. So this isn't helping anything, but the Democrats have to do this. If you're a black American, what do they offer you? Poverty, crime, disaster. But you know what? They'll go a lot farther than the Republicans in getting rid of Confederate war statues.
And what do you think is the real purpose behind all of this, John? Because a lot of people are saying this is a distraction to make sure that black voters don't catch on to how maybe they're being used for their vote and for their money by Democrat politicians. Do you think that's part of it? Or what does this really all boil down to? The whole Black Lives Matter thing, the protests, the Michael Brown thing, of course, the just all this stuff going on at one time. What do you think is really happening here?
Well, I'd say two things. One, what you said is exactly correct. Democrats, like I said, they have nothing to offer black voters. Listen, black voters have been going Democrat for, what, since the 60s? What, 80% at least since then? I think Nixon might have got 20. So they've been going that heavy, and what do they have to show for it? Nothing. It's been a disaster for them. The worst thing that's happened to black Americans is siding up with the Democrat Party. So that is a big, big part of it. But the other thing is, when people cannot deal with the major issues in their lives, they start to focus on trivia. If you want to know what's hurting black Americans in this country, it's the fact that 70% of them are born to, are with single mothers. They don't have a dad. Everything that you can find, that you look at statistics, it goes up if you have a child raised with a single parent. Black Americans are getting hammered by this, so they can't deal with that problem. They go on to all this other stuff because they can deal with a statue of a Confederate, of Jefferson Davis. They can't deal with 70% of black mothers raising their kids by themselves.
All right, on Meet the Press, Scott Walker said that the U.S.-Canada border is a problem, proposes a wall along that border too. Is this really a problem like Scott Walker suggests, or was he trying to grab a headline?
In all fairness to Scott Walker, I don't think he was actually proposing a wall, and we don't need a wall. He was just saying that, yeah, there are some security problems. There are people coming over the border from Canada, too. It's not just the Mexican border. It's not just visa overstays, and he's correct. But, yes, he's already come back and backpedaled from that, saying that's not what he meant. I agree that's not what he meant. So, yeah, I'd give him a break on that one.
All right. Now, Mount McKinley, named by an act of Congress for assassinated Republican President William McKinley, is being renamed by President Obama to Denali. This is based on tribal origins and sort of a reach out to, I believe, Native Americans. But what do you think of the name change?
Well, first of all, I'm sure President Kanye would never do something like this. So if we can get him in there, I think we'll get all those kind of things straightened out. But number two, listen, I'm going to go off the reservation a bit here and just say that I don't think this is that big of a deal. A lot of people in Alaska were already calling it that. The main reason they didn't change the name from Mount McKinley to that already is because a lot of people in Ohio don't like it. At least some of the powerful politicians there don't. I don't consider that a really big deal, to tell you the truth.
All right, John, and over the weekend, it looks like maybe Ben Carson is picking up some votes. Are those votes coming from Donald Trump, or are they coming from Jeb Bush? Where exactly is Dr. Carson grabbing his votes, and what do you think it means in the whole scheme of things?
Well, it's interesting. I don't know exactly where he's getting them. It doesn't look like Trump is necessarily losing steam. It actually just looks like Carson is picking up steam from the rest of the field. As to what it means, it's another outsider candidate who's coming up the ranks. This is another guy that's not a career politician. Of course, Ben Carson is a very, very likable guy, incredibly brilliant. And I've talked to him, and his staff aides were telling me, oh, yeah, all these people remember Ben Carson. I was like, no wonder he's had who he's operated on remember him. I was like, no wonder he's had his finger in their brains. They're not going to forget the guy who did that.
Exactly.
Right. So, but yeah, he's a great guy, and I think it's showing it. Yeah, there is a huge appetite this time around for change in the Republican Party and for an outsider. And I think that's a big lesson to the rest of the candidates. Can they do that? Because if you're telling everybody that everything's fine and we need to keep going out there and fighting for the rich, fighting for the export-import bank, and that's got to be the main priority of our party, and John Boehner and Mitch McConnell are wonderful, you're not what the electorate wants this year. And I think that message could not be any louder. Now, can the Republican Party hear it? I don't know.
So with Dr. Ben Carson, I've often said that, at least through my analysis, John, I don't believe he can win. And it isn't because I don't think he's a great candidate. It isn't because I don't think he's deserving, and it certainly has nothing to do with skin color. My opinion is he doesn't have an organization. He's never run statewide, and to me, that is almost an insurmountable hurdle. Some say, well, Donald Trump doesn't have an organization either. That's not true. Donald Trump, for all intents and purposes, has run nationwide, practically. So do you agree with that at this point, with Dr. Carson making these gains? Can he win?
I think he would have a great deal of difficulty for two reasons. Now, I'm not saying impossible. One, he is an incredibly likable guy. People just love the guy, and that goes a long way in politics. Everybody thinks it's all about the issues. Well, a lot of times it's just who you like the best. It really does come down to that. But yes, he doesn't have a great political organization. Having met him, as brilliant as he is not a standard issue type of guy who does well in politics. He's not one of these guys who gets all energized and jacked up when he pours into a crowd like Bill Clinton or someone who feeds off of it. That's not Ben Carson. He's kind of a quieter, more introspective guy. I think he will have a little bit of difficulty with it. He also doesn't have the money yet, I think, to put on a huge nationwide type of organization that he needs. So I think he would have some difficulties, but, stranger things have happened. I can't rule them out, especially in a year like this with Trump going wild. You never know.
Unpredictable year. Certainly entertaining, that is for sure, and probably some of those coffers will fill up a bit after some of the recent polling taking place. John, thank you so much for being with us. That's John Hawkins of Right Wing News.